Each one of us has an individual gift. It's a blessing to each one. It's up to each of us to find that and nurture it and do our best with it. And it's not what somebody else says or what they don't say, ever.
And your practice as a maker or a creator?
Well, let's start with the first part, which is, my name is Betty Pitts Foster. Mm-hmm. And so Pitts is my maiden name and Foster is my married name. Oh. And I got married when I was in my 30s, and I was working. So instead of telling everybody when they call me who I am, I put them all together. So that's what I did. Mm-hmm. So now the next part of the question you can ask me again, because I'm not going to remember them all.
If my story is one that is just completely forgotten 50 years from now, how will I know that I mattered? How will people know that the work that I did mattered? My name is Tiffany Gaines. My pronouns are she, her. I am a curator, a writer, photographer, creator, and master finesser.
I think everybody's got a little bit of creativity in them, and if they're able to foster that and do that more, I think we'd all be in a much better place. Ooh, my name is Alexa Joan Givens Wajid. I am a creative. I'm a visual artist. I am a chef. I'm a project manager, and I make things happen.
All right.
There's so many amazing contemporary artists out there, and we're not really seeing them brought up in the classrooms. I don't always know what the reason for that is. Maybe it's just easier because there's, well, I would say, it's because of an access to I guess information on them, but that's really not even an excuse anymore because contemporary artists all have bios and websites. So my name's Julia Bottoms. I'm a visual artist based here in Buffalo, New York. As far as my practice goes, I mostly specialize in realism and portraiture. So I like to kind of work on creating representation. So artwork that sort of tells a story and just, expresses something about people.
Because I feel not even just visual arts, like music arts and things like that, it's all creative expression. I don't know why it seemed like it's viewed as so unimportant, but I feel like that's the thing that stops societies from collapsing.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is 13. I am a multi-purpose artist living locally in Buffalo. I'm 13 simply because that's my birthday number. So I was born May 13th, so that's what I use. So I do traditional painting, so acrylic painting. I do digital painting. I sew. I make sculpture work. I've made purses. I kind of do a lot of crazy random stuff whenever I can.
All these different labels, but at the end of the day, you have to figure out, who do I want to be in this world? Figure out what that's going to look like, shape and mold it, and then live it. I decided this is the life I want to live. You got one life to live, so live it to the fullest. You got birth and you got death, you got the dash in between. This is how I choose to live my dash out. Yes, so my name is Itina Fareed Cook, and I am a creative, and I create in many different ways. I love telling stories, and I love utilizing many different tools to tell stories. I think I missed a question there, but...
No, actually, you did fine.
Because for me, that's the case, period. You don't see black artists in galleries. You do. I mean, if you search for it, you will. If you don't get encouragement, then you don't get to see yourself as who you are. You really do need to be encouraged. You don't need to be condemned, criticized, put down, etc. I represent my life. And so my culture is my life. I can't do anything else but be who I am. If you live in the city of Buffalo, you're going to be influenced by the city of Buffalo. If your parents are from South Carolina, you're going to have some South Carolina history, that said, my great-grandfather walked out of slavery and started a church. I'm going to be a part of that because my whole history is that. Automatically, because that's where you were planted. You do that automatically. You don't have to think about it. It just is.
I think representation matters because it allows us to see ourselves reflected in the world around us, and it gives us that affirmation that we are capable of doing the things that we hope to do for ourselves. And I think that seeing someone whose story connects with you on a personal level, whose story you see yourself reflected in, I think it makes art and it makes our ability to tap into our creativity, whether we are artists or not. I think everyone is incredibly creative, and when we see ourselves reflected in other outlets of creativity, it allows us to harness that power within ourselves even more. And I think the more representation, the more diverse stories and people that we see reflected in the museum, the more we're able to learn and hear different perspectives and expand our understanding of the world and how people that are very different from us move through the world and experience it in different ways, but also in similar ways to our own experiences.
Representation matters because, as we know, if you don't see yourself, you can't value yourself and you can't strive for greater things all the time. Sometimes we need to see somebody in action to know, oh, we can move like that? That's what we can do? Didn't know that. If you think about, history in school, as a Black female, I didn't see a lot of history myself in my history books. I didn't see a lot of myself through teachers or even in school, administration and things like that when I was growing up. So representation matters so that people know what they can achieve. But it also matters so that people can understand other people's experiences and people can be humane and express or show humanity to others through viewing their perspectives and their experiences. Well, I will say that in terms of exposure, that's like the trendy thing right now. So if you look at trends, if you look at things that are hot, of course, everything Black right now is hot. Everybody Black is hot right now. So it's like, ooh, how can we get the Black person to be a part of this? And it's more than just that. The Black people, the people of color, communities of color actually have something to say, right? And they need to be supported in that. And they, like I said, they need to be given that platform more than just once, because that's not going to do anything for them. And you're not going to get any type of information or improve in any way if you're just putting them on a pedestal for one night and then removing that pedestal and never work with them again.
Because there's nobody else that's like you, nobody else is going to be able to recreate like the things you've lived through. So I think that helps, but I try to make sure it's a balance between me representing myself and exploring parts of myself, and also making sure I'm not exploiting myself in my culture and my community for entertainment or for just the sake of, exploiting like Black issues, Black pain. I don't want that to always be the message, because I feel like it's necessary to include these things, but I don't think that it should be the soul of it, because then it can kind of get conflated. It gets a little confusing. So yeah, I definitely think something should be implemented where it can be on a more consistent base, because it does feel performative when it's just like, oh yeah, for their special month, like we're gonna pull them out, and then you never see these people again. I think it would be beneficial if we had more programs that was just always what it was, Because I feel like trying to get people to change in that respect is a little bit difficult. I don't know. It's a little difficult.
I feel like I hear two questions in it, so I'll kind of break it up into two. I feel like if that's okay. Well, first, I think representation always matters. I think no matter what's happening on the other side of this question, which I'll address, I think representation is essential. It's always going to be important. as long as, there's a need for those images. I guess when people of color are treated in the same way as, everybody else in this country, then maybe it won't be as important. But I think that's a very, very long ways off. So to me, that representation is going to always be important, at least in my lifetime. And even beyond, even when we do hopefully one day reach that point, we're still going to have to remember that history and where we've come from so that we don't go backwards again. So the other side of that question, though, is what about these systemic issues where we see, temporary solutions? I have a big kind of bone to pick with that because I do feel like, we see things get traction. We get hashtag this, hashtag that, and we see people jump to do something in the moment. And then we see that excitement and that passion kind of dissipate as a month or two goes by. I get to pat myself on the back. I did, a walk for something, or I used the hashtag, or I blacked out my profile picture, and then not take further action. And I think, we have to each individually examine, what our role is in changing these systemic issues. We can't just do the hashtag. We can't just do the walk. We have to actually show up and do some of the difficult stuff too.
So this is also about, this is like where representation we talked about comes in.
Representation. Yeah, so with with representation, the other thing is the way that I look at it is not only people who, that's what the point I was trying to make. I didn't see many who looked like me, but also not many thought like me or had the same experiences as me, which I think is interesting for me at a young age. One thing that I continuously remember is perspectives. And I love listening to people tell their stories because I was able to kind of live within their story. Remember, I love storytelling and getting a sense of somebody through the art of storytelling. And so fast forward to now in this day and age, I see a lot of different people who may look alike, like we may look similar, but we may be completely different, even though we don't look alike. There's a lot more similarities that human beings have together if we were to open up our mouths and share. You touched on something else. Can you repeat that? Because I love culture. That's what I wanted to say. My culture is, all of the things that I want to see within myself and I want to see within my neighborhood and in my environment. My culture is education, it's motivation, it's upliftment, it's engagement, it's youth, it's passion, it's power, it's respect, it's purpose. It's all of those things. That's the culture I created for me. Because at the end of the day, I have this brown skin, but unfortunately, because of systems and things that were put in place, I'm so extracted or detached from African culture, I don't even know the language, and that's unfortunate. So we had to create a culture for ourselves. So that's my culture. My culture is all of the above, all of the things that I just said. I created it for myself. It's all of those things mixed into one piece of art, and that's me. So that's where I come from. I get to create it. That's dope. It's all of those things mixed into one piece of art, and that's me. So that's where I come from. I get to create it. That's dope.
Oh, man, there's so many pieces to that question. You're going to be like a journalist when you grow up. Well, I think that, you all are going to be doing a lot of generational healing from a lot of trauma that your parents and your grandparents are living through, many times because of the situation that our communities are in. Our communities are raising our youth out of our own fear because we know what we've been through. We know what walls that we've been, walking into constantly, or what real fears and traumas there are that we want you all to avoid and we don't want you all to encounter. So we impose things on you which, may not be for you. I think it takes the young people who have stake in the future of Buffalo to stand on what they know is right. I'm not going to say believe, but what they know is right. So I really think we need to listen to the young people, and even me, myself, at my age, we need to step aside. We need to let you all do what you do. And that's only a smidgen of what I think is needed.
In some of the research that I've done in thinking about why certain spaces or certain individuals didn't reach a certain level of success was that investment that they got from the city for institutions or for whatever, it was so fleeting that the moment you take it away, everything that you've built, it crumbles because that foundation is taken from under you. And I think a way to rectify that is to show that commitment, to say that we are here to stay, and we see the value in the work that artists, that cultural producers, that arts administrators, we see the value in the work that you do, and we want to invest in you. Funding for arts in our public schools and for after-school activities that become places to really nurture and to build these connections. Commitment to how important those things are to building a society of better people. I think I'd want to see a sustained commitment to investing in building the people, the workforce, the institutions, the spaces that we want to see, the pipeline, really investing in the pipeline, long term, like sustained, like for years, decades, generations, just solid as a rock, a foundation. Put your money where your mouth is.
Well, the truth is I'm living in it. That's the real truth. That's the real truth. I'm the secretary for Western New York Urban Arts Collective, which is a group that started under John Baker out of the Freedom Wall. And the reason why the Freedom Wall started was the community said, we want people that represent us, the community. So I guess relationship. So what's the foundation? Relationship. Because we have to make ourselves, we don't need to be invisible. You don't need to hide. You need to speak the truth. And so our community spoke the truth. And so, behold, I have before you an open door that no man can shut.
Well, I think definitely I would start with I just feel like art programs across the board just need to be funded way more. So programs in school need to get more funding and be more extensive. If there are infrastructures and programs like these where it's not even in school and kids who maybe don't go to an art school can still have that experience, I think that's definitely important.
That's the big question, right? What would the system be? I think it's hard to sum that up into one response because as with the systemic issues that we were talking about, it's this really complex, big thing. But I think if we're just talking about, to start with the arts, we just kind of distill it down, I would say that the very beginnings of creating a system that supports that is, number one, funding for the arts to make sure that there's something in place for students to have access to good supplies. A lot of times we see teachers, like I said, my background's been in education, and you see too many teachers paying out of their pockets and not having funding for things like colored pencils, and then there's funding though for sports equipment and stuff like that. And to me, that's always really been a sore subject, I guess, because I want to see the arts supported in the same way as everything else because they're so valuable. And so I think it's an essential part of any school, and I just wish that I saw more support for it.
I think that we need to put the youth first. Everything that we learn in life, we need to go back and teach our young people. They're supposed to be better versions of ourselves. They're supposed to be, they should be. I think that makes the most sense, right? If we know something is not working within a system, then start asking why it's not working and start making changes. Schools need to change. Students should not be inside of a building all day. They need to get out into the community and they need to actually put their hands to work. The things that are being taught in schools, that should be the training ground, but the training ground should extend outside the door. Why are we not having more field trips? Why are we not outside of the school sitting on the lawn learning something? Why are we not going downtown and, mixing and mingling with different companies and corporations? Why are students not getting paid for some of the work that they do? Why are teachers not getting paid a certain amount? That doesn't make sense. If young people are our future, like literally, right? Why are we not investing more into the people that are supposed to be instilling stuff inside of the students? Like, to me, that's the dream system. Listening to young people. Stop positioning yourself as if, like as adults, we have to stop positioning ourselves as if we're the experts. And kids and young people just have to listen to everything we say. Like, no, they're experiencing their era right now. We have to listen to them. They're on the ground right now. I don't know nothing about nothing when it comes to young people in today's age, their culture. I have ideas. I can say, oh, back in my day, but that's not your day. This is not your day. I'm existing in your day. We have to pass the mic to young people because they're going to be here. We have to teach them and train them up in the way that they need to go. It seems very simple, right? But unfortunately, because of systems will be systems. So there's a saying that says, change starts with me. But right now, my life that I'm living needs to be about instilling as much as I can into the next generation so that they can exist and be great. If you think about the situation. What are you being fed? What are you being fed right now as a young person? Is it good for you? Do you want it?